My name is Sarah Mercer. I'm 49 years old, and for the past 22 years, I've worked as a forensic accountant in Western Pennsylvania. Numbers don't lie. People do. In my line of work, I've learned to read both. The call came on a Wednesday morning. I was reviewing a financial audit for a healthcare client when my phone lit up on the desk beside me. James? I answered on the second ring. His voice was different, bright, almost electric. Not the voice of the man who'd eaten cereal across from me that morning in silence. I just inherited millions, Sarah, he said. No hello. No preamble. Just those words, delivered like a verdict. Pack your things and get out of my house. I need you gone by 5. I sat very still at my desk. My coworker, Linda, glanced over. I turned slightly toward the window. James, we need to talk about this. There's nothing to talk about, he said. Dad's estate cleared this morning. The attorney called. Everything transferred. I'm done with this, Sarah. I'm done with you. The papers will be on the table when you get home. Sign them and go. The line went quiet. I set the phone face down on my desk and looked at the stack of financial statements in front of me. Numbers, evidence, a story told in columns and rows. I'd built an entire career on finding what people tried to hide. Now I was going to need those skills for myself. What James didn't know was that his father, Gerald Mercer, had called me 3 weeks earlier from the hospital. His voice was thin, but his mind was clear and deliberate, the way it always had been. Sarah, he'd said, when James finds out about the inheritance, he's going to do something foolish. He thinks I don't know what he's been up to. I know everything. There are protections in the will for you. Don't be caught off guard. I'd asked him what he meant. You'll understand when the time comes. Document everything, Sarah. Everything. Gerald had always been more of a father to me than James had been a husband. Now I understood why he'd made that call. I left the office at 4, stopped at a UPS store, and made copies of everything in my bag. Passport, insurance cards, business documents I'd co-signed. Financial records I'd quietly photographed over the past 3 weeks, not because I'd been certain something was wrong, because Gerald had told me to be ready. The house was lit up when I pulled into the driveway, every lamp on, like James was staging a performance. He was sitting in the living room in a sport coat, dressed up, celebrating. On the dining table sat a folder, neat, deliberate, color-coded tabs. You're actually here, he said, sounding almost disappointed. You told me to come home, I replied. He gestured toward the folder. It's all there, clean split. You get the sedan, your personal accounts, and 3 months of transitional support. Sign, and we're done. I opened the folder. My 22 years of forensic accounting told me everything I needed to know in the first 2 minutes. No court filing number, no notarization, no judge's signature. Just expensive paper and clean formatting, designed to look official to someone who didn't know better. Who's your attorney? I asked. That's not your concern. Just sign. I picked up the pen he'd left there and looked at him. Really looked. The man I'd married at 27. The man I'd supported through 2 failed business ventures. The man I'd covered for and believed in and chosen every single day for 22 years. And what I saw in his face was not grief, not guilt, but relief. Clean and undisguised relief. I signed where he indicated. Then I picked up my phone and photographed every page. What are you doing? He snapped. Documenting, I said simply. I went upstairs and packed a bag. Clothes, medication, my external hard drive, the folder I kept in the back of the closet. When I came back downstairs, James was on the phone, his voice low and satisfied. She's leaving now, he was saying. Everything went exactly as planned. I stopped at the door. He looked up. Waiting, I think. For tears. For begging. For some sign that he'd broken something. I smiled. Small and quiet. Good luck, James, I said. I walked out. I checked into a Marriott courtyard off the interstate. The kind of place with good Wi-Fi and lobby cameras. Security wasn't paranoia anymore. It was documentation. The room was clean and anonymous. I set my laptop on the small desk, made a cup of bad coffee, and got to work. I started with our joint accounts. James and I had maintained combined finances throughout our marriage. He handled the investments, I handled the household budget and our shared savings. I trusted that arrangement. I shouldn't have. I logged in and started scrolling through transactions. At first, everything looked normal. Mortgage payments, utility bills, groceries. Then I went back further, 6 months, a year, 2 years. That's when I found them. Small transfers, regular, quiet, 300 here, 600 there. Always to an account listed under Northbridge Consulting, LLC. I ran a search. No registered business under that name in Pennsylvania. I ran another search. The LLC had been incorporated 18 months ago. The registered agent was listed as Cassandra Holt, James's former college girlfriend, the one he'd told me he hadn't spoken to in years. I opened a spreadsheet and started logging every transfer, date, amount, account. The total across 4 years came to $187,000. I sat back and felt the floor drop out beneath me. This wasn't reactive. This wasn't a man who'd inherited money and made an impulsive decision. This had been planned, methodically and quietly, while I worked long hours trusting him to manage what we'd built together. The inheritance was just the moment he'd been waiting for. I took screenshots of every transaction. Then I checked the insurance accounts. There it was, buried in my spam folder. An email notification from our health insurance provider, dated 4 days ago. A request had been submitted to remove Sarah Mercer from the family policy, citing voluntary separation. I have an autoimmune condition. I've been managing it for 6 years with medication that runs over $900 a month without coverage. James had been present at every specialist appointment. He knew my treatment schedule. He knew what being uninsured would mean. He'd tried to strip my health coverage before he told me about the inheritance. If it had gone through, I would have been uninsured and unmedicated in the middle of a sudden divorce with no time to prepare. This wasn't just betrayal. This was a trap. I forwarded everything to my email. Then I opened a new message to Karen Bell, the attorney I'd used when I incorporated my consulting practice 8 years ago. Subject line: urgent, divorce, financial fraud, insurance fraud, attach, send. My phone had been buzzing. I opened the messages from James. 7:02 p.m. Don't think about getting complicated. I have lawyers. 7:18 p.m. You were never really happy anyway. This is better for both of us. 7:34 p.m. Answer me. 7:51 p.m. Fine. Be that way. 8:09 m. My attorney will be reaching out tomorrow. I took screenshots of all of them. Then I typed a single reply. All communication should go through my attorney. I'll provide her contact details in the morning. His response came in under a minute. You can't afford to fight this. I set the phone down without responding. Let him think whatever he wanted. Gerald had warned me this was coming. He'd clearly had his reasons. Tomorrow I'd find out exactly what protections he'd put in place. My phone rang. It was my daughter Chloe, 26 years old, a landscape architect in Philadelphia. I answered immediately. Mom. Her voice was tight with worry. Dad called me. He said you left. He's saying things about the inheritance and lawyers. What's happening? I sat on the edge of the hotel bed and chose my words carefully. Your dad and I are dealing with some very serious issues. I'm staying at a hotel right now. But I need you to know that whatever happens between your father and me, nothing changes between you and me. He said you couldn't handle him coming into money, she said, that you were jealous. That stung. I kept my voice steady. That's not what happened. When things settle, I'll explain everything clearly. But right now I need to ask you something. Did your father ever mention a woman named Cassandra Holt? There was a pause. He said she was helping him manage some of the inheritance paperwork, some kind of consulting arrangement. Why? My stomach dropped. He'd already briefed Chloe. He was managing the narrative before I even knew there was a battle. I'm just putting pieces together, I said. I love you. Don't make any decisions yet. Just wait. After we hung up, I sat in the quiet of the hotel room and felt the weight of it settle in layers. He wasn't just leaving me. He was working the story, positioning himself as the success and me as the obstacle. My phone buzzed with an email. Karen Bell, responding at 9 p.m. on a Thursday night. This looks serious. Can you be here at 8 a.m. Friday? Bring everything, I wrote back. I'll be there. I arrived 15 minutes early. Karen had been practicing family and financial law for 25 years. Her office had the quiet authority of someone who didn't need to perform. She reviewed everything in 40 minutes, asking precise questions and taking careful notes. And he tried to cancel your insurance before telling you, she said, more statement than question. 4 days before. She wrote something down. The LLC transfers. You traced them over 4 years? $187,000, I said, to an account registered to his college girlfriend. Karen looked up. Gerald Mercer's estate hearing is Monday morning. County probate office, you're listed as a required attendee. Me? Why would I be listed? That, she said, is exactly what we're going to find out. The probate office on Monday morning smelled like recycled air and old carpet. James was already there when Karen and I arrived, standing in the hallway with a woman I didn't recognize, polished leather portfolio under one arm. His attorney. When he saw me, his face went still. What is she doing here? Mr. Mercer, Karen said smoothly, your wife was specifically requested to attend, by the estate. We were called into a conference room. A probate officer named Mr. Aldridge sat at the head of the table, a thick file open before him. This is an unusual case, Mr. Aldridge began. Gerald Mercer's will contains several provisions requiring review before distribution can proceed. James straightened in his chair. Mr. Mercer, you are the primary beneficiary of an estate valued at approximately $1.4 million. James exhaled. I watched his shoulders drop with satisfaction. However, Mr. Aldridge continued, there are substantial conditions. He turned a page. The estate includes 2 commercial properties with long-term tenants. Those leases cannot be modified, broken, or renegotiated for a period of 5 years. James's jaw tightened slightly. Additionally, Mr. Aldridge said, turning toward me, Mrs. Mercer has been designated as compliance monitor and estate observer. Any significant financial decision involving estate assets must be reviewed and documented by her during an 18-month administrative period. James's attorney leaned forward. She's not a blood relative. This is highly irregular. Gerald Mercer's instructions were explicit, Mr. Aldridge said. He specifically stated that no beneficiary may use estate funds or anticipated proceeds to force a spouse from a shared residence without proper legal process, documentation, and adequate financial provision. The room went quiet. My phone buzzed. An unknown number. Mrs. Mercer, this is Philip Crane from Crane Realty. Your husband listed your property for sale yesterday evening. A buyer has submitted a $45,000 deposit and is requesting contract execution today. I need to verify your consent before proceeding. I showed Karen. Her expression went flat. Mr. Aldridge, she said carefully, we need to address an unauthorized real estate transaction. The hearing was adjourned. Karen and I drove directly to Crane Realty. The buyer was already there, a developer named Richard Moss, well-dressed and impatient, tapping a pen on the conference table. Karen laid it out precisely. The will restrictions, the lack of proper transfer documentation, the fact that James had no unilateral authority to sell during an active divorce proceeding without my legal consent. Richard Moss listened without interrupting. When Karen finished, he looked at Philip Crane. Did you verify his sole authority to sell? Crane looked pale. He presented a letter from his attorney indicating full ownership. Was there a deed transfer? Moss pressed. A court order? Probate clearance? Silence answered him. Moss stood. I'll expect my deposit returned within 48 hours. He paused at the door. I'll be filing a complaint with the State Real Estate Licensing Board. After he left, I felt something in my chest unknot. James had moved fast, but he'd moved without checking the walls. That evening, my son Daniel called. 23 years old, finishing his master's degree in environmental science in Vermont. Mom, his voice was careful, a woman called me today. Said her name was Cassandra, said she and Dad have been together for almost 2 years, and she wanted to give me her version of events before things got messy. I was quiet for a moment. What did she say? That you and Dad had been unhappy for years, that he deserved to be free. She said it very smoothly, like she'd practiced it. My stomach tightened. Daniel, I need to ask you something. Did your father ever mention helping with your student loans once the inheritance came through? He said it was basically guaranteed, Daniel said. Around $95,000. He made it sound like it was already decided. He was using the children as leverage, offering money tied to loyalty before they even knew there was a choice to make. Don't make any plans based on that, I said. I love you. Give me a little time to get through this. Then you'll have the full picture. Mom, Daniel said quietly, if the money comes with conditions, I don't want it. 2 days later, Karen forwarded a court filing. James had submitted a request for a temporary restraining order against me, claiming harassment and intimidation. The filing alleged I had made threatening phone calls and appeared uninvited at his workplace. I hadn't been within 2 miles of his office. Every moment of the past 8 days was documented, time-stamped, and recorded on hotel security cameras. I called Karen immediately. I've already pulled the records, she said before I could finish. Hotel keycard logs, security footage, your credit card receipts. The hearing is Thursday. Thursday in court, James sat beside his attorney, looking composed and confident. The judge was a woman named Judge Patricia Halloway, late 50s, with the settled authority of someone who had heard every variation of every story and forgotten none of them. Mr. Mercer, she said, you allege your wife appeared at your workplace and made threatening calls on multiple occasions. Can you provide evidence? His attorney rose. Your Honor, we have a sworn statement from Mr. Mercer describing several incidents and a corroborating account from a colleague. Judge Halloway looked at Karen. Mrs. Mercer has been residing at the Marriott Courtyard since the evening of April 14th, Karen said. We have submitted hotel key card access records, lobby security footage, credit card receipts with timestamps, and her employer's remote login records confirming her location during every period referenced in this filing. The incidents Mr. Mercer describes are physically impossible. She slid the documents across. Judge Halloway reviewed them in silence. Her expression hardened. Mr. Mercer, these records place your wife at a hotel 12 miles from your office during every alleged incident. Can you account for that discrepancy? His attorney touched James's arm. Your Honor, the dates in the filing may. Did your client file this statement under oath? The judge interrupted. The silence answered for them. This order is denied, Judge Halloway said. I am noting in the record that this filing appears retaliatory. If this court's time is wasted again, sanctions will follow. As Karen and I walked out, I passed James in the corridor. He didn't look at me. His attorney was already on the phone, voice low and tight. The false filing had cost him the one thing he'd been counting on. His credibility. Judges don't forget. 3 weeks after the probate hearing, Karen called me into her office with a thick folder. The estate has been fully evaluated, she said. The actual numbers are very different from what James believed. She walked me through it methodically. The 2 commercial properties were valued at $820,000 combined. After deducting existing mortgages, deferred maintenance, and a mandatory repair escrow Gerald had built in, the net was approximately $480,000. The remaining investment portfolio, after estate taxes, legal fees, and Gerald's medical debts, came to roughly $310,000. Total liquid available to James, Karen said. Approximately $390,000. I sat with that number. He told our children he'd be worth over $1 million. He borrowed against it. I found 3 personal loans, Karen confirmed. $72,000 combined. 2 from friends, 1 from a private lender. He promised early repayment once the estate cleared, so he'll net around $318,000 after paying those back, if he's careful. He's also signed a 2-year lease on a condominium downtown, $3,800 a month. I did the math quietly in my head. $318,000, minus $91,200 in rent over 2 years, minus living expenses, minus the ongoing obligation of managing 2 commercial properties with restricted leases. In 2 years, James would be looking at a near-empty account and a landlord responsibility he hadn't planned for. He'd built his entire exit on a number that didn't exist. What about my practice? I asked, his claim on it. The business was established before the marriage, Karen said. Growth during the marriage could be contested, but given the documented transfers and his attempted fraudulent sale of the marital home, I think we can argue for minimal division. His claim is weak. She paused. There's one more thing. I received a call this morning from a firm in Seattle. They've been watching your work on a healthcare fraud case that made national press last year. They're offering you a senior partner position. Base salary $195,000, full benefits, relocation package, signing bonus. I'd been consulting with them informally for 4 months. I hadn't told James. Smart, Karen said. The offer date falls after your separation. It's entirely yours. He has no claim to future earnings. That evening, my phone rang. Chloe. Her voice was different from the last time. Quieter, more certain. Mom, I did something, she said. I went to see Dad last weekend. Cassandra was there. She was already talking about redecorating the condo, treating it like it was settled. Like I should be comfortable with it. She paused. I asked Dad directly about the LLC, about the money transfers. He told me you'd fabricated them, that you were trying to destroy him out of jealousy. Did you believe him? I asked. I looked it up myself, Chloe said. Northbridge Consulting. I found the registration. I found her name. I found the dates. She was quiet for a moment. Then he told me that if I stood by him through the divorce, he'd help clear my student loans. And if I sided with you, I was on my own. He called it a practical decision. Mom, I've never been so disgusted in my life. Chloe, I said. I'm on my own, she said firmly. I choose you. 3 days later, Daniel called. He'd spoken to Chloe. Same offer, same condition, he said. He called it a family business decision. Said everyone had to choose strategically. I told him it was the most inhuman thing I'd ever heard a parent say. He paused. We're both done, Mom. We talked about it. We're choosing you. Both of my children had been offered money tied to loyalty. Both of them had walked away. 2 weeks later, Karen convened a settlement conference. James arrived looking tired. The polished confidence of the probate hearing had worn down to something thinner. He knew what Karen had. He knew what the judge had noted in the record. He knew his children weren't in his corner. He knew the estate was a fraction of what he'd told everyone. The settlement came together in 4 hours. James retained his inheritance, reduced to $318,000 after debts, with both commercial properties locked under Gerald's restrictions for 5 years. I received the family home, my consulting practice free and clear, and the return of $140,000 of the stolen funds. The divorce would be finalized in 60 days. 3 days after signing, I called Seattle and accepted the position. I sold the house, kept a few pieces of furniture that held meaning, left the rest. 6 months later, I stood in my apartment in Seattle watching fog move across Puget Sound from my living room window. It still surprised me every morning, the quiet and the space and the view that belonged only to me. My phone buzzed. A message from Chloe. Landing Friday at noon. Daniel's driving down from Portland. We're cooking dinner at your place. Don't eat lunch. I smiled. Chloe had taken a contract in Oregon and was seriously considering a full relocation. Daniel had defended his thesis in April and accepted a position with an environmental nonprofit 20 minutes from my apartment. Neither of them had taken a single dollar from James. Both of them were building lives entirely on their own terms. That Friday evening, the three of us crowded into my kitchen with music on and bread in the oven, and the easy, rolling conversation that happens when nothing is being hidden. Chloe raised her glass halfway through dinner. I want to say something, she said. She looked at me steadily. 8 months ago, the life you'd built for 22 years was dismantled in a single phone call. You could have broken apart. You could have become someone defined entirely by what was done to you. You didn't. You documented everything. You trusted the process. You protected Daniel and me, even while protecting yourself. Daniel nodded. You never once said a bad word about him to us directly. You let us find the truth ourselves. That's the hardest thing to do. You did it. You showed us, Chloe said, that a woman doesn't have to set fire to everything to win. She just has to be smarter, more prepared, and more patient than the people who underestimate her. I looked at my children, grown, grounded, choosing integrity over convenience when it would have been so easy to choose otherwise. I couldn't speak for a moment. I just held the feeling. Not happiness exactly, something more durable, peace. The solid, unshakable kind that comes not from what you've gained, but from knowing precisely who you are. Months later, I heard through mutual contacts that James was struggling. The commercial properties required more maintenance than he'd anticipated. Cassandra had moved on when the inheritance proved far less impressive than advertised. He'd had to break the downtown lease and move somewhere smaller. The personal loans were coming due. I didn't feel satisfaction at any of it. I didn't feel much of anything. He'd become a stranger, someone I used to know, someone who had made a series of choices that led him exactly where they were always going to lead. I had a career that challenged me every single day. I had a window over the water. I had 2 children who called not because they needed something, but because they wanted to. I thought sometimes about the woman who'd stood in that doorway 8 months ago, bag in hand, smiling quietly at a man who believed he'd just taken everything from her. He thought he was throwing me away. He was setting me free. And I had known, from the moment I picked up that pen and signed, that the woman walking out that door was not the woman who would be diminished by this. She was the woman who was just getting started,